Hi everyone, Jackson here. Welcome to my first dedicated setup guide for ESO, where today I'm going to be discussing my speed build that I use, my Vampirism invisibility speed build I use to basically ignore enemies, just completely walk past lots of danger and just not have to fight anything. Works great for endeavors because you can just fight things you want to fight and just ignore stuff that you don't want to fight. Now, this build is not perfect. There are some problems, but for the most part, there's a lot of stuff you can do with this to save a lot of time, especially when it comes to going into areas where you can't mount. For example, indoors, delves, public dungeons. It's really good because you can just walk past enemies at full speed with invisibility, and yeah, you're at the speed cap all the time. Now, as I said, it's not perfect. There are dungeons that you don't want to use this in, for example, Vulkhel Hold. Reason being is, as you can see here, some enemies can actually see you through invisibility. And getting out of combat via invisibility is a pain in the ass sometimes, because especially missile attacks, they can interrupt your ability to go invisible, and trying to get back out of combat and go back on your merry way is sometimes, as you can see, a massive problem. That being said, for most of the time when you use this build, it's just going to be really beneficial because you can escape combat at a moment's notice, just go invisible at will, takes a few seconds to get out of combat, and you can do some cool things with it. For example, the portals in Craglorn, you can cheese them and cause them to go away, but for the most part, you can just sprint really fast and gather resources quickly. You can do quests at warp speed and ignore a lot of the enemies in quests, making getting through them much faster. And just generally, when you're going through doing endeavors, you can just skip a whole lot of stuff. Okay, so a couple of prerequisites before we properly begin this. There's two. One recommended, very recommended, one unfortunately a requirement. So the recommended prerequisite is you hit level 50 CP 160. That is the gear cap. I think it's very important to hit this gear cap because some of the gear that you get for this build is something that takes a while to farm, or can be a pain in the ass to farm. You really don't want to be out leveling that stuff. You want it to be level 50 CP 160, which is the gear cap, and not have to farm it again. It's just permanently useful to you. Because Darkstride, Coward's Gear, monster sets, monster sets you can't get in. Yeah, you can get them in CP10. I would not recommend that. But yeah, CP 160 level 50, I highly recommend getting that. The other prerequisite is, unfortunately, you have to be a vampire. I don't think there's any way around this because the backbone of this build is the unnatural movement passive. You get the first one at level 7, vampire, and you get the second one at level 10. So you have to go through the entire vampire skill line XP grind to get this. Now, the good thing about vampirism is, unlike a lot of skill lines that require you to do specific things to level up the get the XP gain up, you only have to do normal XP gain for vampirism. So as your character is leveling up, vampirism will also level up. Now, the amount of XP that it requires, especially at low levels, is pretty crazy. As you get to higher levels, the amount of XP you gain, it won't be so bad, but it is going to require a fair bit of farming, so it will take you some time getting through the XP to get this. You can, but because it's just XP gain, you can just do the conventional stuff you can just do both at the same time. Just level up your character and level up vampirism. This is usually what I do for levels I create, because I like using vampire builds for them too, for the build that I use this for. Because I can use this as well for like Sky Shard farming, skill point farming. It's just really good all around. The three recommended ways I would get XP for vampirism and just normal leveling. Firstly is random normals. Random normals are good. Do them once a day for the purple reward. That's a lot of XP. The blue reward isn't so useful. Maybe if you get Fungal Grotto a bunch of times, you can do it really fast, but other than that, I wouldn't recommend it. Dolmens are another really good way, especially in Oridon or Alakir Desert, maybe to Shan as well if your mount's quick enough. Yeah, the dolmens in these places, you can just sit there and just tap enemies, tap every enemy that spawns. You get a pretty good amount of XP doing this. It's not super fast, but it's not too bad. You can use Maelstrom Arena. Maelstrom's not too bad as well, solo. It's not as good, I think, as Dolmen's though, for just chilling and watching YouTube or something at the same time. Questing, personally, it is a bit slow, but getting skill points at the same time as XP is just, it's really valuable, I think. A lot more valuable than people lead on to believe. Skill points are kind of important, especially for builds like this, where this will sort of be, you want your main to be the first one that gets the Vampirism build, so you want a lot of skill points for crafting and all that. So it's kind of worth it anyway. You could do Black Rose Prison farming if you've got tons of gold. Wouldn't recommend it, because again, Black Rose Prison farming runs, usually people will charge millions of gold, and not a lot of people are not gonna have access to that sort of financial strength. So yeah, I'm not gonna assume you can do that, and I wouldn't recommend it either, simply because like getting skill points from story quests and shit like that is good. So yeah, that out of the way, let's start talking about the speed caps. The speed caps are important because there are a bunch of different movement speeds in this game. The most basic one to talk about is literally the base movement speed. So base movement speed is 100%. It's about, if you look at the speedometer at the bottom, it's about 26.8 meters per second. I know it's not showing that, but we're going downhill, so it's kind of messed up a little bit. So yeah, 26.8 meters a second. That's about the normal speed that your character will run in most zones. The speedometer can be a bit unreliable because different zones have different speeds. It's like your character's like different sizes in different places, like housing it's different, and inside specific delves it's weird. But for most places it's that. So that's the base speed, 100%, 26.8 meters per second. With no CP, with no buffs to your movement speed or anything, this is jogging speed. So when you just hold W down, this is the jogging speed. So this is the base movement speed that you'll have as soon as you start the game. Sprint speed, on the other hand, is about 38 meters per second. So this is 140% movement speed, and this also applies to the speed cap. So the speed cap takes sprint speed into consideration as well, so worth keeping in mind. Sneak speed, on the other hand, is 60% of your base movement speed. In this case, it's approximately 17.2 meters a second. This is important because cloak builds, if you want to go that route, they move at at sneak speed when they cloak. You can't sprint in cloak builds because if you start sprinting, it will pull you out of invisibility or cloak, so it's not good to do that. Now, the good thing about Vampirism is there is another passive called Darkstalker, removes this penalty. So with Darkstalker active, which is Vampire rank 3, when you get that passive, sneak speed will actually be 100%, so you can move at jogging speed at sneak, which is really nice to have. Now, the sprint speed, or the regular speed cap, is approximately 53.7 meters a second. It's twice the base movement speed when you jog. So that is, as you can see here, about 53.7, give or take. Sometimes it fluctuates. Tends to fluctuate a little bit more than other stuff, just because it's just a little bit more reliant on flat ground than slower speeds are. But generally 53.6, 53.7 meters a second in these kinds of places. So that is the movement speed cap. If I, for example, take off a dark side ring with Swift on it, my movement speed won't change. If I go this way... So yeah, basically, yeah, it hasn't really changed. Reason for that is I've actually gone over the cap with this. I just wanted to showcase what happens if you're over the cap. You don't gain any extra speed, so it's important to understand that when you're making a build like this, because the speed cap sort of defines how far you go with making or adding speed sources to your build instead of just damage or sustain sources, because they're the other two things that matter, damage and sustain. Okay, so hitting this speed cap with a mount is a little bit different. So what you have to do is, whenever a mount starts sprinting, it gets a small speed boost for a little bit, and it decays over a course of about 3 seconds. So when I start sprinting, you'll see the speed go all the way up to 80 and then it'll fall off quickly. Yeah, see, so it balances out at around 76, 75 for a while. And what you have to do is, every now and then, you'll have to hit the sprint button to get it to go fast again. Now, you have to wait about 5 seconds before you can do it again. Otherwise, if you do it too quickly, nothing will happen. It'll just go back to its normal speed. So if I keep trying... So yeah, it'll just keep going to around 76. So you have to give it a couple of seconds. Usually it's around 4 to 5 seconds before it'll be able to have its little boost again. So if I do it now, it'll be able to. Yeah, so it's not super important to keep doing that, but keep it in mind when you're moving in a straight line for a while. You can just keep doing that to get a little speed boost. So there's 3 sources in the game that you can get extra speed per mount from. Riding skill is the first. You spend 250 gold at Stable Masters to increase it by 1%. You can do that once every day, so it takes a long time to get this sorted, but it is well worth it. This is where most of your movement speed on mount comes from. The next option is Major Gallop, which you get either from Alliance War, which is the better option, because you just get this passive, it's just permanently on you, you forget about it, it's really good. The other way is Adept Rider. With this one, you get Major Expedition as well, so you can use this for speed builds. This one gives you Major Gallop, but you will eventually get this from Continuous Attack at all times anyway, so it's not really that relevant. The third option is Gifted Rider. This is 10%. It's a pain in the ass to get early on because you need a lot of CP in order to get access to it, but there is nothing in the game that substitutes this. It's just a unique thing that you're going to want to get, because it's just 10% extra mount speed. It's just good on everything. So these are the 3 options. So here's the sources for you if you want to look them up. Alright, so now we get into the proper side of speed caps, the on-foot speed caps, because there's a lot to go through. So let me go ahead and bring up this Excel spreadsheet I've got. This is all of the speed caps in the game, or speed sources that you can use to reach a speed cap. So the orange ones are ones that only impact sprint. They don't impact all movement speed. The blue sources are ones that impact all sources of speed. Sneak, normal speed, sprint. So obviously blue ones are more valuable because they increase all your speed, but in my opinion it's not good to have maximum jog speed like this, because sometimes, for example, if you're getting a sky shot on the top of like a rock, if your jogging speed is too fast, you'll just jog off the edge like at warp speed and fall off and not end up getting the sky shard, and it's a pain in the ass. So it's good, I think, not to go crazy with jogging speed, but it is definitely worth it getting ridiculous sprint speed as much as you can. So the base one that you'll always want to have, because this is a sprint build, is sprint. That increases your current speed to 140%, so we only need an extra 60% movement speed in order to hit the cap. The best source of this, above anything else in the game, is Wild Hunt. But Wild Hunt is a problem, okay, because it's a mythic, requires Greymore, requires Murkmire for one of the leads, and the Elden Hollow lead is honestly one of the most painful, just snorefest leads to get in the game. I have done Elden Hollow across my 3 accounts maybe 80 times, and I've gotten the lead once. I hate this one. So I personally don't even bother with this shit. I don't enjoy getting it, but if you do get it, it is like, it's clearly the best option you can get, because with Wild Hunt, all you need alongside this is like a few other things, because you only need 15 more movement speed % in order to hit the cap. As you can see here with the Wild Hunt build, you get sprint speed, hasty, Wild Hunt, and then athletics. Athletics also has a bonus to sprint speed via the final passive. It's called athletics here. Each armor piece increases by 3%, so if you're wearing all 7 medium, you just get like 20%, and that will put you over the speed cap easily. But I prefer Major Expedition ones because I just hate getting the Wild Hunt ring. It's so annoying to get. I don't know, I guess I'm not lucky with the Wild Hunt lead, but I despise that lead. I fucking hate it. So yeah, I'll just go through this one instead, because this is one that most people will want to go for, the one without Wild Hunt. So, sprint speed, we've got this. Hasty is a CP that you can get pretty early on. What I would do is go Sprinter, get 20 in that, go into here, Wind Chaser, Hasty, 16. So it increases your sprint speed by 4% when you get it. You'll also want to get Celerity, if you're not using Wild Hunt, because that also increases your overall movement speed. This affects all movement speed, and it's 10% at max. So this is really good too. And I use this for my builds like this. Another source is Swift. Now Swift you get from jewelry traits. You can only get this if you own the Somerset DLC. So if you don't own this, don't worry about it. But I like using this because I like making my jogging speed a little bit quicker. So I do go over the cap with these, but it's personal preference. If you prefer robust or infused for extra damage or recovery, or extra stamina, you can do that. That's up to you. But personally, I like having Swift and Celerity, just for the extra jogging speed. Now, obviously, we've got Major Expedition. This is the main thing to focus on for this build, and I think there's two really good sources. For Nightblades, it's a little bit different. But for every other build, the point of this build, and the reason I use it in the first place, is you can use this on any class, it doesn't matter which one. I'm on a Necromancer. Nightblades, it's probably best to use a Cloak build instead, but every other class, like even Nightblades, you can just use Cloak and a Sprint build, and it's really good. But every other class, the point I make about this build is you can use it on any of them, it doesn't matter. The strength comes from Vampire, so it's usable on any class. So there's Major Expedition. There's a bunch of sets that give it to you. There's a bunch of skills. A good example of this is the Psijic Order skill Accelerate. This actually gives you Major Expedition. But the problem with this is when you start using a sprint build, if you leave sprint to use a skill, you get pulled out of invisibility. So skills that provide Major Expedition, they all provide them for not very long. Rapid Maneuver applies it for 8 seconds, but it costs a lot of stamina to keep up. So I personally don't like these skills, because the point of the build is to be able to sprint for as long as possible, and if you want to cast these skills you need to leave sprint, so it kind of defeats the purpose of this build. So skills that provide Major Expedition, no way. My suggestion is you can't use them, unless you want to be constantly getting spotted by enemies. So that leaves only a few things that you can actually use, because there's a lot of sets that give it, but there's only 2 that give it permanently without you having to leave sprint, and they are Adept Rider. This one gives it to you permanently just for having the set on, and it's really good because it's a crafted set with 3 research traits, so you can get it really quick. Like basically if you just start researching traits right now, you can get it very quickly. But it doesn't offer you any stamina regeneration, which is kind of what I prefer. Gives you a lot of armor, so that's good. Like, gives you a lot of defense. But so does this one. This is the one I actually prefer, Coward's Gear. So when you sprint, you gain Major Expedition and Major Protection. So you gain damage reduction, and you gain Major Expedition when you sprint, which you want to be doing anyway. It also gives you a ton of stamina recovery. The problem with Vampirism is if you're going to be stage 4, which you need to be able to sprint and go invisible, your ability costs go up to 12%. So everything you do costs more. But if you have high recovery, it's not a big deal. So yeah, I prefer having a bit of recovery. So yeah, Coward's Gear, I prefer this. The only problem is getting your hands on it can be a pain in the ass, because some of the trying to get them from guild stores or battlegrounds can take you a while. Guild stores, they can be a little bit expensive, not crazy, usually a couple of thousand, maybe 10,000 if you're lucky. If you see them for hundreds of thousands, don't get them. Just wait, be patient. There'll probably be some for a lower cost. But my advice is make sure you look up a thing called Temporal Trade Center. I don't know how accurate or reliable this will be for consoles, but if you just look up Coward's Gear Jack, for example, you can go Advanced Search, you can go Trait Divines, and you can search, and just make sure you choose which server you're on, PCNA or EUNA, EU PC, EUNA. So yeah, there's a bunch here you can choose from. This one's 34 minutes ago, so I'd suggest trying that one, but you do need the DLC. But yeah, so as you can see, some of them just charge ridiculous prices. I wouldn't bother with that shit. Try and get the ones that are cheaper. And traits, you don't really need to worry about it. It's just Divines tends to be better, because I like having a steed that helps boost damage, and Divines helps add extra damage to that damage. Looking at you, Exhibit. Okay, and then I run a monster set. You can either run damage, you can run extra sustain. It's no big deal which one you want to choose. But yeah, I have different ones. On one of my other speed builds I have Celine's instead, 2-piece, for extra damage from a proc set. But it's up to you, personal preference again. I just prefer the stamina recovery on this one. Okay, so the other part of this build that I think is worth getting is Darkstride. Darkstride, you can get Prisoner's Rags, excuse me, which does the same thing, except gives you more stamina recovery instead of max stamina, and also restores magic every second while you're sprinting. Really, really good for Nightblades, I think, and Sorcerers, because they can use Dark Deal to use stamina to get magic back, and Nightblades use Cloak. So you can sprint, then Cloak, then sprint, and this will mean that as soon as you spam Cloak, you can then sprint and get a bunch of magicka back really quick. The only problem with Prisoner's Rags is, one, it's light armor. You want to have a lot of medium armor, especially for major expedition builds, because you need more athletics to hit your movement speed cap quicker. And it is also in Cold Harbor, which I think is a lot more painful to farm than Darkstride, which you get from Rivenspire. Obsidian Scar, the public dungeon for Rivenspire, is a lot... the area is a lot smaller than the one for Cold Harbor, the Village of the Lost. That one is so vertically and just horizontally huge, it takes ages to get through. And the amount of chests that are in the Obsidian Scar area, like, that are so close together, it's really good. So farming the set in that place is way easier than Village of the Lost. So I personally avoid Prisoner's Rags, but if you can get that set, it's definitely better, I think, because most builds you want to use a bit of magicka in your runner builds anyway. So, because, like, for example, I use Boneyard. Siphon doesn't cost anything, but some, like, you know, I could use Mage, which costs magicka. I could use Soul Trap for where am I going? I could use Soul Trap for getting resources back with Consuming Trap, stuff like that. But you don't need too much, just a little bit. Alright, so the last part to talk about is my damage bar. You don't need to go, like, I've got Nirnhoned here, what a waste. You don't need that. You can just go, preferably go Sharpened. Again, the reason I use Agility is it's cheap. You can find a lot of daggers of Agility for pretty cheap. You don't have to do that though. Some good options are, if you want to go all out, you can go Master's Dual Wield, because Stinging Slashes, you probably want to use Rending Slashes when you do this, so that's fine, I think. If you don't want to go Agility, if you want to go Crafted ones instead, this costs 2 resource traits to be able to make, so it's really quick to get. Gives you weapon and spell damage as the base, as the 2 item, so you just craft 2 pieces of 2 daggers in Sharpened. And it is Clockwork City, but you can craft this in any guild hall. The master crafting stations will have access to all the traits in the sets in the game. So technically it is a DLC set, but you can get it in base game as long as you're in a guild which has a guild hall, or you have access to a guild hall. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss champion points. So I've got about 420 here. Blaze it. So 1260 total. Don't stress if you don't have this much, because you could definitely get away with a lot less. What you're going to want is, firstly, we'll go through the green tree. So start with Breakfall, go to Wanderer, Steadfast Enchantment, Treasure Hunter, Master Gatherer, and then Gifted Rider. Gifted Rider is probably the most important because, like I said, there's nothing that will replace this in terms of how good it is. But, yeah, you can also get Steed's Blessing here, which increases your movement speed if you don't have a lot of other options for increasing your cap. But I prefer these four here. So Treasure Hunter, because of getting higher quality, it's not higher quality of items that matters. It's higher chance of actually getting the, in simple chests, for example, you have a higher chance of actually getting an item, which is really helpful because you get a lot more simple chests these, like in most stuff, than other types. Master Gatherer is really good because you want this build to be a resource gatherer, and reducing the time it takes to gather by 50% is amazing. Plentiful Harvest is also awesome because you have a half chance to get double the amount of resources. Just great. Nothing wrong with that. I think these four are definitely the best. As soon as you've got these four, all the rest of it is just working on survivability, basically, or reducing the cost of stuff, or getting more gold. So I usually go Breakfall, 50 here. Then I go Gilded Fingers, 50 here. Fortune's Favor, then Wanderer, then Steadfast, then Inspiration Boost. Inspiration Boost is a weird one because you only really want to do this if you're leveling up your crafter. Meticulous is also good if you want to refine a ton of resources, but I would prefer getting another character to max level crafts and just having like a dedicated refiner. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that one too much. So these are the ones I'd recommend. Once you're there, Out of Sight's good, Fleet Phantom's good, but they're last things to worry about. Soul Reservoir is definitely the very last thing you should get. Alright, so that's green done. Alright, blue. So this is definitely the most confusing CP tree for new players. I can totally understand that, because it's like everything, it's all over the place. But let me make this simple. Tireless Discipline, put 20 in that. Extra Stamina is always good. Eldritch Insight, max Stamina, always good. Precision, Critical Chance, always good. Piercing, Offensive Pen, always good. Now, this bit is the interesting bit. Quick Recovery, Healing Received. This applies to things that you apply on yourself. So any heals you do to yourself, this will increase the healing done of them. So it's really good. Preparation is so bloody underrated because it's 10% damage reduction. This is major protection levels, a unique major protection buff on you all the time. So bloody good for surviving early game. These two are not so important, but good to get still. So the four main CP trees I would suggest is Wrathful Strikes, 50 in this. Extra weapon and spell damage for your damaging abilities, always good. Deadly Aim, single target stuff. Master at Arms, single direct damage. These are all really good. Templars, even Templars, you could probably just go with Deadly Aim and Master at Arms, it's no big deal. Now, the last one you get, preferably I'd get Fighting Finesse, because you'll go a bit of crit, and this will be fine. But this part is like, it's not really that important. Reaving Blows maybe to get some more healing whenever you deal direct damage. Untamed Aggression for extra weapon and spell damage, which also applies to healing, which is important to note. Endless Endurance for extra stamina. But I think most people will just say, oh, Fighting Finesse is better, so just go that, who cares. Wouldn't get Backstabber, even though it gives you more crit, because you're not really going to be attacking enemies from behind. The only ones you are going to be attacking from behind are people that you're probably going to feed on, and they're going to die instantly anyway, so it's not a big deal. From here, Battle Mastery, Mighty, and then Flawless Ritual, War Mage. Once you got those sorted, go for Blessed. That's about it, really. Obviously, yeah, these two. Like, if you're low on CP, don't get them. Focus more on these ones. And then lastly, we've got the red CP. This is one that's a more simple than the blue one. So Sprinter, 20. Go here. Go Hasty. Celerity, if you want. This one's personal preference because you don't need it if you've got Swift. If you don't have Swift, it's probably good to get it. Hero's Vigor for extra health, always good. Humbling, reduce the cost of roll dodge. In running builds, I actually use roll dodge to increase my speed sometimes. It's a bit confusing to explain, but basically if you fall and you stumble, if you don't do like the roll, if you just stumble, if you roll dodge here, it's faster than just watching a character stumble because you can't sprint. Defiance, reduce the cost of break free, always good. Now, Slippery is actually a really good one. You can break free for no cost every 21 seconds. Just great for sustain. Bloody Renewal, also excellent. When you're fighting enemies, you're going to be using a lot of resources. Getting your resources back for killing is always really good. Now, the rest is personal preference. You can either go Boundless Vitality for extra health, or you can go Siphoning Spells for more magicka whenever you kill enemies. Could go Survival Instincts for reduced combat costs when you've got status effects on you. It's not super important. You could also go Refreshing Stride, health and magicka recovery whenever you're sprinting, which is actually pretty good. Wouldn't worry about this one because you've already got Major Expedition. Strategic Reserves, you've got no health recovery as a Stage 4 Vampire, so this one's not good. You're not really going to be using shields. This one could be good. I don't know if this one stacks with Slippery though, if Slippery counts for using the break free for this. But this one could be really good too. Rejuvenation, also pretty good. But yeah, this one isn't too important, so I usually just go Boundless Vitality for extra health. Very simple, always reliable. From here, it's not as important, but I go Tireless Guardian, reduce the cost of block, reduce the cost of bash, increase the effect of block, increase the damage of bash, and then Nimble Protector for extra movement speed while blocking. You don't want to be blocking for anything related to sprint, because blocking will actually take you out of sprint, so not great. From here, these two don't really matter, because yeah, you're not going to be resurrecting often and worrying about that, so yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Just get this, whatever, it's fine. So yeah, that's CP allocated. If you got any questions about any of that, as always, just let me know. So, before I go, a couple of last things to go through. Firstly, in order to get Vampirism, I never, ever recommend getting the Curse of Vampirism via the Crown Store. 1,500 crowns is insane for this. Understand that people will not expect you to pay much. If anything, most people do it for free. We appreciate a tip, you know, like a couple thousand gold. But like 1,500 gold, we do not expect you to pay this kind of thing for a vampire bite, okay? Zenimax, understand that Zenimax is so predatory with this nonsense. They are out of their mind to believe this is fair. So on PCNA, if you need a bite, just tell me. I will give you one for free. Like, screw this nonsense. Same thing with the Vampire Cure. $8, such a rip-off. I do not ever recommend going through any of this via the Crown Store. Okay, just want to put that out there. All right, so in order to get to the best vampire shrine, I think, which is in Bankrai, you want to start at Daggerfall Way Shrine. You unlock this base. Even as soon as your character is created, you have the Daggerfall Way Shrine unlocked straight away. So all you want to do is come down here, make your way to the docks, go down a level here. Now you're looking for a Zufar. This lady here. Talk to a Zufar. Say, I'd like to travel within the Covenant, Bankrai, if you will. From the docks in Bankrai, you are traveling here. So you go from here out to where the way shrine is here, get this way shrine, and then travel over here. You'll notice this is where I was before, explaining the speed caps and stuff. Alright, so there's a way shrine just there. Bankrai is a weird place. It's got another way shrine right here. It feels redundant. So once you get here, the Vampire Shrine is right here. Just there. So it's the quickest to get to. The Rift one isn't too bad either, because you start with this race shrine and it's right here. The only problem with this is there's a ton of enemies in the way here, so getting through them can be a pain in the ass. And then I wouldn't even bother with the Ripper's March one. Yeah, I definitely prefer coming here, because it's not Alliance specific. You can just come here regardless. And if you want to do bites yourself, if you have Vampirism max level and you want to do bites, you need this passive here. You can only bite people once a week. All you have to do is go up behind people. There's a synergy. Press X, and you'll do like a animation to bite them, and then they just have to do a quest. Quest doesn't take long, probably 5 minutes ish, maybe 3 if you're quick. Yeah, the quest is really easy. I've done the quest with no gear. It's pretty chill. Yeah, not much else to say other than that. Oh yeah. Look, I'll go through feeding, because you do need to feed in order to reach stage 4, because I need to feed in order to get back there. Okay, so in order to feed on people, you have to go into stealth. Now understand, this is a criminal act, so if guards see it, or if guards see it, you'll get a bounty, and if you're not cool with killing innocent people, totally fair. But there are less hostile ways to do this, killing people that are more righteous for it. So what you got to do is come up behind people, press X, you'll feed on them, you'll get your vampire stage up. There's a bunch of people you can go through in Vulkhel Guard. There's a Khajiit lady who runs along here. You can feed on her, especially when she's out here. There's no one near her, so you can just feed on her. There's also Angelinwen. You just got to be careful of Eveline here, that she doesn't see you do this here. But usually right here is good. So these 3 are usually really good ones, because they're right next to the way shrine that you've unlocked straight away. Because you unlock that way shrine as soon as you start your character. Okay, so there's a couple over here that are worth talking about. None of these people do not suggest that. This person here, when they're over here, is perfect, but only when they're over here. Anywhere else, you'll likely get a bounty. There's Bilam, and there's Mathiel. When he's over here, it's a good idea to try it now, because he's too far away to see. If he gets any closer, it's not a good idea. When they're over here, usually you can also get away with this. When he goes over here, though, it's a bit bad. And you got to keep an eye on her. Make sure she's not watching, because she goes to the edge of the area. When she's here, you can't feed on her. But when this Khajiit goes over here, around the rock, you can go up behind her to the left of the rock and feed on her there, and that's totally fine. This person here is definitely one of the best. One of the ones I usually go for, because she doesn't move. There's never anyone around her, so you can just take her blood without much issue. And it's the exact same for this guy here. He never moves. So all you have to do is just go here, go to the right a bit. Or actually, no, go to the left, actually. That's better. You just can't come too close, especially if you've got Dark Brotherhood, because you use the Blade of Woe by accident. The feed one is further than the Blade of Woe one. Just keep that in mind. So yeah, you can feed on this guy. Now also keep in mind, you don't have to go through the whole animation. If you hold like S, you'll notice that you can start moving way after the feeding animation has... way before the feeding animation has stopped, sorry. These 2 people I don't recommend, because there's always 2 people there, and they'll always spot you. There's this guy here. When he goes over here, usually you can feed on him. Here, sometimes you can also get away with it, but you have to be careful of Sun and Tyrell here. There is a Fighters Guild member sitting on the rock here that you can also feed on. You just have to keep in mind there is a Mages Guild member here somewhere that will likely see if they're close enough. I think is it this person here that comes over, or is it? Because they don't move. I think it's this guy here. So when you see the coast is clear, you can also feed on them. Maybe this person? Maybe. Yeah, actually, okay. So you have to be very careful with this one though, because there's a guard over here, there's a person there, there's a person here. Yeah, just be careful with that one. There's 2 guards here actually. Fun fact, you used to be able to feed on guards, because originally feeding didn't used to kill people. It just used to stun them. But yeah, they removed that ages ago. It used to be really good, because guards you could just always feed on, so I'm pretty upset that they got rid of that, but, you know. That'd be the way the game is. So this lady you can feed on. Usually not have problems. This person here, you have to wait till they're not sitting down like this, because you can't go behind them here. But sometimes they walk around, you can get them then. Just be careful if they're too close to that lady. There's another one over here you can feed on too. This one here. Just when they're over here, sometimes it's a bit hard, because if you go behind them here, it'll give the blade away option. So you have to wait till they move here. And now you can do it. And then maybe this guy, when this person's turned around as well, you can feed on. And after that, I would not recommend anyone else. These people here, it's like sort of too dangerous. There's too much going on usually. But yeah, that's tons of people. You've got lots of options there that you can choose from. Now, if you don't like the idea of killing innocent people, which is totally fair, Del's Claim, just to the northwest of Vulkhel. This is full of Veiled Inheritance people, a bunch of racist high elf pricks that are totally ripe for converting into power for yourself. So if you want a more moral way to do this, this is definitely a place I would suggest. Because believe me, these people deserve to die. They're a bit of a pain in the ass to feed on though, because some of them are in places that are hard to feed on. But the outcome is the same. Feed on them. Usually they're in groups and they'll fight back. But what vampire hates victims that fight back? Oh, there's someone else, is there? Oh, interesting. Okay, there we go. Well, weird animation there. Oh, weird positioning. So yeah, you get the drill from now. So that's how you do that. There's lots of enemies in here that you can feed on. It's just sometimes it's a pain in the ass to get them turned around. Alright, there's one more option that I'll go through. So, last one to talk about is the Soulstorm Thrall. So, in order to get this... Okay, thanks, Crown Store. Yeah, here it is. So, this vampire pack here, 4,000 crowns you have to buy this for, and you can't get it any other way, unfortunately. If you can find a guild house which has one, totally go for it. But I don't think anyone should be paying ZeniMax this kind of shit for something that really should be a base game thing, I think. But yeah, what you can do is go behind it and you just feed on it like anything else. So you feed on it and then you go back and it'll respawn pretty quick. And then you just repeat the process. So that's another way. But look, I'll be honest, that is not worth 40 bucks, man. Just saying. The traits don't matter too much. The quality of the weapons matters. Gold is really helpful. Gives you a big damage boost compared to purple. I know it's a bit of an investment, but believe me, this investment is probably one of the most worthwhile investments in the game. Jewelry doesn't really matter too much. Just go like... Try to go for at least blue. If not, go for purple. Don't go for gold. It's not really important. Same with armor. Drag wax is super expensive, and the effect you get from gold armor is not really that relevant. But divines is certainly important for extra damage. Mundus as well. Sorry, and food. I should go through food as well. Thief. I suggest this. If you're struggling to get movement speed sources, you can go Steedstone, and Divines will actually increase the amount of speed you get from it. But I personally prefer Thief with Divines, because you get crit chance. Your crit chance for a build like this will be low with lots of medium armor, so I like to have that. You can also go Daggers to get extra crit. I think that's worth it too. But understand, Daggers with Sharpen is basically the same as Maces with Precise. So you can either go those two, and it's usually just fine. But yeah, like I said, traits don't matter too much. Just try and get your weapons to gold at least. Alright, so food. There's 4 foods I would suggest. Or the easiest ones to, I think, get. Snowbear Glowwine. Stamina recovery by 500 for 2 hours. This recipe is really cheap. You can find it on guild stores quite cheap. Honest Lassie Honey Tea is another really good one. It's just the same thing, but 60 minutes, but you also get Magicka recovery at the same time. So it's stamina and magic recovery. Also really easy to make. All these resources are available quite easily by guild stores. You've also got Lavafoot, Swamp and Salt Rice, and also Dubious Camoran Throne. Lavafoot is just stamina, lots of stamina and stamina recovery for 2 hours. Really good, but a little bit expensive because it requires Scrib Jelly. Dubious Camoran Throne is also a really good option. Instead of just max stamina and stamina recovery, it splits the stats a bit and adds extra health as well, and also for 2 hours. The only thing is, Beetle Scuttle and Guts. These are both not that cheap to get, so these two are expensive, more expensive than the other ones. But yeah, these are definitely some of the best that you can get, I think. Last one to talk about is Rudgeon Sugar Claws. Just increases your max stamina instead for 2 hours. This one's also very easy to make. These three are also all easy to get. Yeah, just lots of good options, lots of cheap options I think are worth it, because you really don't want to be gone crazy with your investments here. The whole point of this build is something casuals can use very easily, should be cheap, practical, and efficient, and that's, I think, what it is. So the last thing we've got to talk about is getting rid of Vampirism should you want to stop using this build. So the only way I would ever suggest doing this is going to any of the tier 5... it's complicated to explain that. Come to Vankrai, because you already have this way shrine if you went this route. Just go, if you haven't been here, just make sure you go via the docks with the Zufar, like I showed in Daggerfall. But you come to the Mage's Guild here, just go either this way shrine, come to this door here, you just go through this way, and you come in here, he'll be at the very end, this guy called Prelate Sabinus. So this guy, if you talk to him, he'll cure your Vampirism for 700 gold. Now, the reason I say only use this one is there's another way via the crown store for 800 crowns, but I would never ever suggest paying this ridiculous fee for such a simple thing to get. So yeah, that's all you have to do. You can use armory stations to respec your character and remove Vampirism. You can also use armory stations to regain Vampirism, which is really helpful. So keep that in mind. If you have an armory station and you save a Vampirism build on there, if you cure Vampirism and then you select that build on the armory station, it will give you Vampirism again. You start at stage 1, but that's the easy bit. Doing Vampirism again's the annoying bit. So you can do that. And if you want the armory station, it is free. Armory station. It is free. So you can put it in your house. If you want a free house if you don't have one yet, you can go to Oridon. Go to this area here. There's a lady in here that you can talk to. She'll give you Morris Kiss Public House for free. And you can put the armory station inside here. It'll look a little bit ridiculous because it takes up basically the whole space, but that is something you can do. That is everything. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you for your support as always. I really appreciate it. And until next time, take care.